All right, this video is going to be a crash course through Epic. It's probably might be a little more helpful and a little more condensed than the 4-hour class was for the doctors, hoping this was just a little easier as it'll be from the Scribe account point of view. So as of March 1st, everyone should have their Epic accounts. So you'll just enter your regular TMH credentials, and on the department you'll just have to search Bixler or Northeast, and you'll do that at the start of every shift. So it'll log you in, and you'll have this board. It'll be very similar to the Bixler board. You'll see pod 1, pod 2, etc. Um, some people might not see it. There might be an issue. If there is, just reach out to me or Skylar, and we can send in a ticket request on your behalf to IT. So the first thing I'll recommend doing is you go to the top here. The software recorder doesn't show my mouse. I don't know why, but I'll do the best I can to kind of keep you focused on where to pay attention. Anyways, this scribe tracking at the top is where you want to start for your shift. This isn't like required, but it'll just make a lot of logistical stuff easier and more efficient. So you'll just type in the name of the doctor you're working with for the day. This is just the playground environments doctor. And then once you click enter and you're linked, you're good to go. Next thing you'll want to do is click sign in. It'll have your name. Again, you'll have to put your supervisor, but it'll put him at the top, put him or her at the top. So you just put their name, and then it'll automatically assume you're a provider. Just go ahead and click that off. It'll make a lot of things more difficult and complicated if you leave it on. If you worked in the old version of Cerner before November 2022, you'll remember it was a similar way. Every shift was like, "Are you a provider?" And you just click no. So just as long as you turn that off, you'll be good to go. So let's look next at some patients. I'll kind of walk you through a few chart things. So just open 11-year-old with wrist injury. It'll start here on this workup, and you can again put these like ED course things. I was messing around a little earlier, so you had post film or reduced joint. If a doctor wants you to put something in there, you can make a comment, and then it'll import into the chart later. I'll show you that. So let's go make a note. We go to my note. You know what? I tried this earlier and the recording software crashed. Let's just go somewhere else. Let's try this one. Yeah, okay. So off the rip, you'll have two options. There's this note writer template and this blank template. You want to use the note writer template, but you probably won't use this specific one. All the doctors are going to have their own preferences on what they want, and so they'll probably just take this generic Epic made chart and they'll tweak it themselves. I'll show you where you go to copy the doctor's notes, but this one will kind of throw in some automated stuff that'll make it easier when it gets around to like billing or inputting variables. So just do that one. So it pops up this like multi-panel window. This one right in the middle, it's helpful towards the end, but it can be kind of annoying and bulky for now. So what I recommend is just I move it to the left so it's out of the way. That way things are right side by side, my narrative and the actual note. And what you can do if you click this kind of like, yin yang looking button, just turn that off and it'll disappear, and you can always pop it back up later if you wanted to access it later. So you're working through your charts, your HPI right here in the narrative, that's going to stay the same. Just write your good solid HPIs. There's these buttons at the bottom as far as like details. I think they can kind of, sometimes they'll, the more you click, the more it'll pop up. I know some of the doctors probably won't want to use that. Just leave it blank. If it's blank, it'll disappear when the chart's made. But just keep up with your doctor about what they want. So a general good thumb will be just communicate with them over the next few weeks. What do they want? What do they not want? Just kind of maybe just kind of be open about what that all is. And if you're not sure about something, just kind of ask them for help. Don't be too prideful. So anyways, moving on, the ROS, you can access it either in the middle or on that right panel at the note. I believe ROS is just going to stay the same. Most everyone will just do this generic all systems negative. Again, maybe your doctor wants it. But physical exam, there will be two options for the physical exam. It'll be some doctors might want this like template that's interactive, and it's kind of on the one hand more thorough, but on the other hand it can get a little more complex. Some doctors might want that. Other doctors might just roll with kind of how it is now, just a simple text template. So you'll just have to kind of figure that out. If you are working with multiple doctors who have different templates, you can just go here and you'll have a menu to drop down from. So, Dr. Smith, Dr. Jones, yada, yada. But, today we're working with Dr. Urgent. So if I'm using his pediatric template guide, you can just click that. It'll import everything, and then you'll just have to, edit stuff as needed for the chart. And if you happen to use the wrong one, you can just go clear physical exam. So the MDM, the narrative is going to be like the rationale. So if you're writing rationales, just keep that up. The thing that'll be different is kind of the level of, all those like kind of ancillary stuff. So like I looked at this record or I talked to those people. There will still be an element of that right here at the bottom, but it'll be somewhat different. So there's, I think, 5 or 6 fields here, I think I count 6. At least 2 of those will always need to be filled. So at the very least, if there's no tests being ordered and if we're not talking with a specialist, the first 2 can always be filled. It's independent historian and, external data. So, you can always just say like, I think you're gonna add patient if nothing else, and then details. Old hospital notes. If there happen to be no notes, you can always just say like no prior records. And then on the right side at the bottom, you'll see where it, as we're typing in the middle, it'll pop up on the right side. So if you are ordering tests, go ahead and click ordered. The big thing for EKGs and radiology, you need to do both of these, the independent interpretation. That's technically all that's required, but check with your doctors. They may also want you to put some free text on the bottom. Some of these charts will be audited, and so the doctors will just want to make sure they have not just like they're not just clicking off on random things. That there's also there's actually some sort of interpretation. So it might just say like this wrist fracture kid, X-ray shows wrist fracture, just something like that. So don't just leave one. Try to make sure you're hitting both if we're ordering imaging and tests. So that's kind of the quick run through on a chart. Consults with can always just kind of be a free text too. So that's that. Once we're done with a chart, we can go to dispo. So at the top is that like disposition button. I would just leave that blank, just let the doctor do it, because even if you like click discharge and it doesn't actually initiate the process, I think the color changes here or on the board, and then the nurses will be like, oh, like the kid's ready to be discharged, but we're missing some other stuff, and then they go to the doctor and it kind of gets all over the place. So I'd say unless your doctor's telling you, hey, put all that in, you can probably just leave it for them to do. The impression is going to be the diagnosis. So on the current version, at the bottom we have disposition followed by the diagnosis. Here, that's just what it is. The big thing about this one is you'll want to have details. So you can't just really say wrist fracture. Epic's going to get mad at you and want you to explain what exactly. So the big things will be like location, initial versus subsequent visit. Most everything in the ER will be initial. But, even if I just see, oh, hey, wrist fracture, and I try to double click on it to pop it up, or I go to the bottom and I'm trying to click accept, you got to click through these. So, it's a closed fracture, it's on the left wrist. Then at that point at the bottom, it'll accept that. So they just like details. So and you can put multiple diagnoses as needed. So some of this stuff I'll skip just for lack of time. But charging, the doctors have to do their own level of charting now, or like charging for their services. So one's like benign, 5's death's door. They might want you to put it in for them. They might want to put it in themselves. I would just maybe run that by them first. But some of the stuff that we do through the note writer template, again, clicking through those like independent interpretation, Epic can then like calculate that, and I don't think we have access to it, but the doctors do. And then if the right things are done, once they open it, Epic will be like, well, we think you should do this level of charge, and that way the doctor doesn't have to run through all the criteria in their head, and it can save them some time. For lack of a better term, we'll just say this kid's a 3, just to kind of keep moving things along. So that's kind of the dispo, and let's say you've written up the chart, you've magically gone through all the dispo stuff, or even if not, you've just done everything you're ready, you've done. I got a low battery. You got a few options. So you can either do share, and share is just the version of how CERN did it with, just save the note. Share doesn't necessarily mean like it's going everywhere. It just means you're making it as a chart. So you can share it. Another option is to do ready to view, and that'll go straight to your doctor's inbox. The cool thing about Epic is you won't have to worry about making double charts. That was always a problem with Cerner. But here, if I'm trying to make my note, and it'll just put me into what I've already written. So no, don't have to worry about any double notes, which is kind of nice. And again, if you're done, if you're ready to send it to your doctor, you just do ready to view, and that's the version of sending it to them. So I think you can still go back to, though. So again, very, very flexible until the doctor signs off on it. One other cool feature is this scoring tools tab. So let's say this kid with the wrist injury also hit their head, and the parents mentioned it. Many of you know about the PCARN criteria. So there's all these various tests here. So we can kind of just run through the PCARN. The kid's older than 2. Let's just say no and yes. It then kind of spits out this information. We can, I think we can accept it. Yeah, we can accept it. It'll put it in here, but you can also put it into your chart itself. If you look at the bottom right where it says smart links with the arrows, if you refresh it, it should populate it in somewhere. I might be missing something, but as far as I know, if you do a scoring tool and you complete it, it can then be imported into the chart. But at the very least, you have it somewhere if you do it. So that's kind of the basics about a chart. I do want to show you one other thing. So again, you'll have doctors who they'll start making their own templates, and what you can do there is just go to My Tools up at the top here. You can make your own smart phrases, and that's where you can also copy others. So you'll just search for your doctor user, and there should be a button somewhere that says, I think it says Add to My Smart Phrases. There's another one that says Copy. That's kind of deceiving. Don't do that one. It just kind of makes everything a little more complicated. So there should be a button that says Add to My Smart Phrases. But let's say, because again, to make a chart, we have that note writer template. So let's say your doctor has their own customized version of that. I want to show you something how you can make it more easily accessible. So you'll do My Note, and let's say, again, your doctor might have made it, but you don't see it up here. How do you get there? So let me just show you really quickly. Also, if you want to end up making your own copies of something, all you do is just highlight, and then you click Create Smart Phrase up here. And then it'll ask you just click this Continue button. It'll kind of just turn off all the specific stuff for the specific patient. And so here you have all these options, and it's got all these at symbols and whatever. If you're not sure what something means, HPI, you can tell that means HPI, and I guess it just says begin. I think that just means it'll indicate on the chart this is the beginning of this section. But if you're not sure what something means, you can always just go underneath it, or you don't have to go right underneath it, but just somewhere. If you just type dot and then spell out the same thing, so SF HPI, it'll tell you this is the Smart Block Smart Forms version of HPI. I don't know exactly what that means in details, but it has something to do with HPI, and I think anything that says Smart Forms or Smart Links or whatever, that usually means it's kind of got a lot of those click button interactions. But let's say your doctor doesn't want all this history stuff, and they don't want to import those tests. And again, some doctors will want that interactive test, while some just want some plain text. So let's just say there's a big physical exam section, with all the different systems. Maybe your doctor likes it that way, and then we'll just say just put if you make your own charts. I think everyone just does it by their initials. So let's just say that's your doctor's note writer template. The way to do that so that it's just easier if I show you in person or by example. So you have your doctor's note writer template in your tool belt, in your smart phrases, but then you try to go make a chart, My Note, and it doesn't pop up. How do you add it to this list right here? So what you do is you go to, this is the only way I know how to do it. You have to go to a chart, to this My Notes tab, and then it says Provider Notes. Over here on the right of the Provider Notes, there's this wrench icon. You click the wrench, and then that's where you can add a smart phrase. And then you'll find the Note Writer tab. So Note Writer, I do it again here, same one, Note Writer, and then you just do accept. So let's go back. We're going to delete that chart. I'm not going to save it. For whatever reason, we can't. Let's see. That's how we do it. If you ever want to delete a chart, you just go to the bottom, cancel, and it'll just say discard. So, all right. So going back, so you did that. You went to that wrench icon and you added it in, and now you're going to add my note. Boom, there it is. So you have that one, and then the Epic generic one. So most likely, most doctors will have their own version of this, and you'll just want to do that. And when it does happen like that, just it'll look a little differently. Again, now we're looking up here. There's only this HPI tab in the MDM, the ROS, and the physical exam. Those are no longer those big, deep, interactive templates. So, and you can do that for multiple doctors. So if you have 3 or 4 on rotation, you just kind of, you can. All right, so I think some sort of issue, but let's keep going. So only other thing I was going to add was at the top, you can just go to this My Complete Notes or Incomplete Notes at the end of your shift. It's part of your in basket, and if there's an issue, I think ultimately if there's an issue, the doctor can do it, but if not, if you want to just check, you can go to this Edit Note option. And I'm not sure what it should tell you what's not kosher, and you can go from there. Maybe it's just acknowledge, that might be it, but maybe that might be it. Ready to view. Anyways, so I would just check at the end of the shift, as long as you've shared it with the doctor, they'll have it, but at the end you can just make sure incomplete notes, there's nothing else that's yelling at you. So all right, well that's mostly it. So just keep up the good work, keep a good effort. Reach out to any of us if you have questions. There's 4 scribes who are super users, so there should be someone around. And there'll be doctors too, many of the ER docs. So for the first 2 weeks there'll be 24-hour super user coverage. So don't go through it alone. One last thing I'll say, a good alternative, just click F1 and it'll pop up pretty thorough guide, and you can find most anything. When I was playing around earlier and I was looking for things, I could find most of my problems with the learning guide. So between that, the super users, and your doctors, you should be set pretty well. Let us know if you have any questions, and let's go be epic.